Okay, then we will move into new business. Item A, determination of 2011-12 tax levy pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 120.12, 3A, B, C to include consideration to increase or decrease
No.
the levy previously set at the annual meeting and to adjust the budget to include additional positions and/or budget requests. So, Mr. Gorder.
Yeah, it'd be easier, I think.
Click on the red X. There you go.
Big thing. Thank you.
Just don't click that other red X way up there.
You start.
Yeah, I'm sending it to you right now. Do you have access to email right now? I don't.
You guys can do it. Well, I'll try to blow it up maybe just a little bit more. Let's see, basically what you're seeing up here is two columns, one from the annual meeting and then one for tonight. Remember at the annual meeting we always talk that there's some information that we haven't received. One of them are the equalized values, another is the third Friday count, and the final piece of that is the certified state aid that comes on October 15th. We received all that information on Friday, or at least the certified state aid, we got that on Friday, and they were a little late getting the property values to us, but they did get them to us. And overall, what we're seeing is we talked about the decrease in students in the FTE count, and that had a net effect of basically reducing our overall revenue limit. We'll see that in a minute, but I'd like to start with the big picture and work back. So in the end here, you can see the overall total property tax levy for funds 103839 decreased about $236,646. And again, that was primarily due to the decrease in the number of students. We did pick up a little bit of additional state aid, and we'll see that in a minute too. But the net effect of that, then, we actually predicted about an 8.45% increase in the property tax levy. It actually decreased to about a 6.18%. And then helping us even a little bit more, we did pick up about a 1.33% growth in our equalized values. If you remember, I had predicted a 0% growth. So the increase in equalized values along with the decrease in the property tax actually decreased our mill rate by about approximately $30 on $100,000 of valuation. So we initially predicted if you had a property of approximately $100,000 at the annual meeting, that you would have projected taxes of $869.37. That again was lowered to $840. So we decreased our mill rate from increase of 8.45% to hopefully a more manageable, about 4.78%. And on a monthly basis, that's about $3.20 increase a month. So, that's a give and take when we're looking at that. Good for the taxpayers. Again, as we discussed, we're going to have issues with decrease in allowable revenue that we're able to generate. This year, as we get into this, I'll explain how we were able to absorb that. So again, the big picture is our mill rate on $100,000 of property valuation is about $840. That's a decrease again of about $30 what was actually projected at the annual meeting. So some things went our way, some things didn't go our way. So I guess, as always, we'll take it and we'll work with it and make it work. Yourself back a little bit. Hopefully I kept these in order, and we'll just take a look at the revenue limit real quickly right here. And as we've always, or I guess as I've always stated, the revenue limit, everything in school funding basically starts and ends with the revenue limit. And you can see we had a revenue limit of $28,364,899. And you work through that, you see our state aid estimate of $18,476,230. Add in our debt service payments, deduct for some additional state aid we got because we're a low spending district of about $28,026, which is an additional aid, deduct our computer valley, and then you end up with that $11,082,235,000 as a tax levy. Divide that by our equalized values and you come up with your levy rate. Just a quick explanation of how that revenue limit sheet. But if we look at our FTEs, we actually estimated flat enrollment, no increase, no decrease. And you can see that we had 3,138 actually estimated in 2011. Of course, I've changed it down to that 3,064 FTEs. So again, wasn't enough to give us a declining enrollment exemption, but we'll have to wait and see next year. Hopefully we'll have some of those projections put together in the next month, month and a half, so be able to get a look at that. But here's where we're at with the revenue limit sheet. The next sheet is the revenue limit summary. Basically, we'll just take a look at what the changes from last year to this year. I wish I was as fast at doing this and as to the point as they are in the 2-minute drill that they do at halftime during the football games, but I'm sorry I can't do it that quick. I'll miss information. So as we take a look at this equalized values, they did increase about $17 million in the school district of Toma. Our revenue limit from this year, from last year to this year, actually decreased about $1,380,000. And you can see the equalized aid actually decreased 10%, or about $2 million. And our computer aid decreased a little bit, and yet our all-fund tax levy still increased. So that's why you're seeing an increase in the tax levy. Some of that is due to some increase in enrollment, but a lot of that is just, quite frankly, trying to make up the difference in the state aid and the revenue limit we lost there. So you can see how we arrived at those calculations and the decreases there. And if we take a look at this document, I put this together in August, and just as kind of give you a little bit, and there's another document with a graph that you'll be able to look at it. 2004, we were at about $837 per 100,000. So although the $840 on 100,000 is an increase from last year, we saw historic lows in our mill rates. Now with these changes, I think we can anticipate the tax levy all over the state, or the mill rates increasing slightly, although you will see some this year that did decrease. I don't expect that to be a trend across for the next couple of years. I think we've seen our savings, and now from here, they're already showing a little bit of an increase in the revenue limit, not near that we were getting 2 years ago, but again, nothing stays the same from year to year, and anything that we move. So that just kind of gives you an idea where we've been historically, at least in the last 20 to 30 years. The next document I have, there's just the state aid estimate. I won't take time to take a look at that. And then also we'll take a look at the equalized values historically from 1966 to present day, and you can just kind of peruse that. But I think the graphs probably speak, kind of give us an idea where we have been at. And again, you can see the historical lows that we've experienced in the last few years. And now you can start to see that trend coming up, but we're still probably in the big scheme of things over the years, probably as low as, or lower than we've experienced in most other years. So the mill rate is still staying down. And again, of course, our tax levy is still increasing. And then when we look at our equalized values, you're starting to see that it really flattened out last year, and this year again we saw a slight increase. you have two things working when your equalized values are increasing and your levy increases. You kind of offset that on your mill rate kind of gets offset. So the higher your equalized values go up, the lower your mill rate can be, and that changes on the factors. So you can see as our equalized values have been increasing, it's also been helping on the mill rate side of things. The next screen or slide we'll take a look at is kind of the history of equalized aid. Oh, I'm sorry, this mill rate comparison. Now, right now, I'm just using 2010 and 11. Around in December, we'll be able to see where we'll be falling this year. But even at $8.40, if you take it that, and that's on $1,000 evaluation, if you take a look at these, you can see that if Tomah was a school district last year at $8.40, we'd still have the third lowest mill rate in the area. We'll see how that changes. I know some districts will be decreasing, but I think it's pretty fair to say that we'll still be one of the lower spending districts, or have one of the lowest mill rates in the area. So again, I think that's a pretty important document as we're moving forward. And I think what it tells us for what we do here in Tomah, educating students, we get a pretty good value for our dollars. So we're doing a pretty good job with the monies that we give. So let's take a look a little bit of where these changes came in. And the first document I'm going to open up is the non-salary document here. And you can, the first page is basically, and you forgive me a little bit, we got all this information on Friday and I was frantically working Friday and this morning trying to get this together, so there may be a few typos, but in the grammar part of it, but the numbers are accurate. You can see the biggest decrease in our expenses is coming in the district-wide programs, and we'll take a closer look at this. Otherwise, you're seeing some increases in administration, which is some insurance increases, and then construction. When it was all said and done, we had enough decreases in expenses to offset the decrease in the revenue limit, so we were actually able to add $15,000 to the construction budget, which we typically do. In any given year, we'll either take it from it or give it back to it. So we'll just move right to those areas on this screen here. Administration, where it gives a little bit better breakdown. Again, you can see the insurance changes, increase in our workers' compensation premium from the audit, and then $11,000 in unemployment compensation that we're seeing here. And then finally, I think that the bigger story is when we look at district-wide programs. I think it's in February, maybe it's in March, but you will approve students who are doing their open enrollment, whether they're going to another school district or coming in. We take those numbers in February and we have to make an estimate of what our open enrollment expenses are. And the safest thing to do is say, okay, here's who applied, here's who's coming in, and value those using the numbers that we are provided by the state of Wisconsin. And then say, excuse me, here is our open enrollment expense, here is the students coming in that are going to be providing us some revenue. The one thing we do know about those numbers historically is that usually the kids that are leaving and coming, they don't all end up doing that. It's just a matter of, is it some of them, or is it a majority of them, or what is that number? So being conservative, I put the number that we're going out this year, okay? Because I knew there would be some changes and I wanted enough wiggle room in the budget if something happened that we would be able to absorb that. And as you see, we lost 82 students, so we have to pick up that $236,000. So you can see our open enrollment expense actually went down about $208,000. But you have a revenue side of things here too that we have to factor in that. So you net the revenue and the expenses, and the net was ended up being about $180,000. So we were able to absorb of that approximately $230,000 on the revenue limit side, about $180,000. The other changes came on the salary and fringe sides. When we budget for new staff coming in, and if I could remind you, we had about 23 of those new staff coming in. I think when it was all said and done, the changes, or actually maybe even a little bit more than 23 with the retirements and the leaving. But we have an opportunity there to start making other estimates. What are they going to come in at on the salary schedule? Are they going to be married or are they going to be single? So what I like to do is to look at half of them being married, half of them being single, and maybe padding one way or another depending on how the wind is blowing at that day. And then we typically budget at those folks coming in at about just slightly below a master. So between a combination of that and this open enrollment, we were able to actually absorb the decrease in the revenue limit and actually lower our expenses so that we put an additional $15,000 into the construction budget. Any questions this far? And we can take a look at the salaries. If you're looking at this $242,000, that's kind of sticking out red there intentionally. We had 3 teachers that you approved. Initially, we thought we would code those in Fund 27 as special education teachers. Actually, they still will be working in the same capacity, but we'll be charging them into Fund 10 per the DPI. They're not true special education teachers, so if you're not licensed as a special education teacher, you cannot be coded in Fund 27. They'll be working in, Cindy could probably speak better than I can to that, but that RTI model of interventions before kids move actually into the area of special education. Once they're in special education, you have to have a special education teacher working with them or the regular classroom. But we want to try to prevent students from getting into special education, so we need that intervention before they move into special education. So us going
It's really the PBIS initiative, so it's proactive behavioral intervention, keeping kids focused. So they don't need to have a special education license to do that. Initially, we thought that they needed that, and DPI has said no. So keeping them regular at them, providing the support though.
Questions? And then in Fund 27, well, moving down through the rest of these screens, you can see that if there were any changes, there were very few, if any. Those were really the major changes in Fund 10, and there was some expense decrease if we move back up to the top. The second page there in Fund 27, that $51,864, again, was a decrease in open enrollment special education students coming to the district. The next screen we'll just look at very quickly is the salary. And again, you're seeing actually an increase in the elementary in expenses. That's probably, again, closer to that $96,000 mark with the new staff being moved in there. But again, with some of the insurance changes, it actually is a little bit lower. And then, again, insurance changes at the high school. And then, again, in maintenance. So just to give you an idea, that's primarily a switch from a family to a single. So you can see we're not dealing with 500 or 5,000. It's actually, a considerable amount of money. So it doesn't take a lot of changes in staff and their insurance to see the dollars shift significantly, or at least to what we're seeing in our checkbooks. And then finally, I think the next one you should probably take a look at is the grants. And there looks to be some, what I would call significant changes, but I think after we talk about them, there's probably nothing on here that we don't do in any other year, other than the reading intervention grant. When we put this together in August, I don't believe we were sure that we were going to get this. But now you can see that's listed in here for $101,600. This is primarily geared at LaGrange. The rest of the increases that you're seeing there are carryovers, and carryovers are unspent monies from the previous years from grants. You can carry over just in Title I about 15% of those dollars. And we like to carry over as much as we can on any given year so that if we have a decrease in funding from the federal, the feds, we have a year to prepare for that. And we did see a slight decrease in the allocation, although you can't see that here. And although they have given our allocation for this PL 94-142, which is a special education federal grant, that will be changing, and it'll actually decrease, so that a little bit of cushion we have in that grant will come in handy now. So now we have a year to prepare for it rather than reacting to it in October. So you can see those are primarily the changes in the grants. The next two documents, or the next document, is probably the grand totals. And when we take a look at overall the grand totals, you can see Fund 10 decreased $182,937 in expenses from what we presented in August. And we can take a quick look at revenues. All those changes we talked about on those other sheets, property taxes going down $236,646. The changes to our state aid and computer aid and the grants are all listed in these revenue changes here. So if we come back to where we started, I think that gives you a explanation as to how we arrived at our expenses and revenues, and how we arrived at a mill rate of $840 per $100,000 of valuation. As I'm sure with anything, I maybe skipped over something. If you have questions, I hope I didn't, but if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them as best as I can. Finance Committee?
It's nice to be able to go through it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We have a distinct advantage.
You know, the other thing is, I thought, you know, there's usually kind of this, it's over, you know, you got, but I don't feel that way, because November 4th, we're going to be going to the Baird model, getting some updates. The revenue limit for 12-13 just got put out on the DPI. And we know we have challenges for next year already. We talked about the federal jobs funding of $570,000. We're going to have to find dollars for that. And the declining enrollment we're going to have to deal with next year. So, you know, the combination of those two things are you know, certainly we're starting in the hole to the tune of about $750,000 right now. That's not including any other additional expenses that we're sure to be facing coming up here. But, you know, we got through this year. That's about all I can say. The sun came up every day and we made things work. It wasn't without pain.
You should say that so easily.
That's the nice part about being done. It's done, now we can worry about next year.
Next year.
Again, any questions, concerns?
It's just more of maybe a point of reference that each time you do this, it's very helpful. Like Mr. Mullen said, to hear it over and over helps, but the amount of work that you have to put into this to come up with your projections and how close your projections are each year is nothing short of amazing with this size budget.
Yeah, you know, I feel good about that, you know. You wish you could do things, but, you know, if it's not there, it's not there. So.
No, and I think we all appreciate the effort, as Mr. Fosciani said, that you put into trying to explain all this to us, too. I mean, it helps us a lot, and
And we have good support in the office there. I'm very pleased with the folks we have in there, Meredith, Amy, Cindy, Vicki, Sheila, you know, everybody, Cindy. We all contribute something to this puzzle over the course of the year, and it's kind of a culmination of all of our efforts together, whether that's you know, the folks in the back putting estimates together for salary and fringe or the non-salary, and Cindy and I bouncing ideas off each other. So, team effort.
Well, it's a whole district team effort.
It is.
Everyone pitching in to make it possible to get the budget to come out at least so that we make it through this year and then we start looking at the next year.
And I do think it's much to your credit that, you know, you always do try to plan these out on the side of caution and put in there what you feel is a reasonable amount. And I think that really shows up when you look at what we initially levied in August and now we're going to finalize in October here. I mean, there is not a big difference, and it was actually in the right direction, which is always a plus too.
I would not
You never
have
know.
wanted to have been sitting here with 82 less students and that decrease in enrollment and trying to find the money had we not took the steps on in open enrollment to base it on the actual numbers. In years past, we kind of shook the dice, but I just didn't feel that cushion was there to do that this year, so.
Well, and that's all the challenge that we know about too with open enrollment and with many of those things that we face now that we didn't face 5 years ago. You know, it's a different beast. So. Any further questions, comments? Then I guess at this point, we have the information we need. So I would look for a motion to approve the changes that have been brought forward in the...
Oh, there is one other thing. Thank you. When you said changes, if it's okay.
Yes.
It's important to, I'm just trying to talk up here. Cancel this real quick. There are two documents that
The notice of change.
the notice of change, right. All these changes to the budget need to be properly noticed to the public and placed into the paper. So you will see documents in the paper that look like this, and all we're required to do is notice change in the specific accounts. So it's not all inclusive of this type of document we saw at the annual meeting.
Right. These are the only things listed are things that either changed up or down.
Yes.
So that resulted in the final amount that we have before us now. So. Then with that said, I guess I would look for a motion to approve the following changes that were initially approved in our 2011-2012 setting of our levy. With that said, the following amount is the levy that will be set for our 2011-12 school year, and that would be in the amount of $11,082,235.
So moved.
Seconded?
We have a motion and a second then to approve those changes and set our 2011-12 levy at $11,082,235. Any further discussion? We will have a roll call vote.
Pam,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Mary Ellen,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Deb.
Yes.